Hey all, today we're taking a look at the Spyderco ROC. Let's get into it. Now if you like this content, like, sub, shares, all that good stuff, really appreciate it. Also down below, coupon codes and merch to help support the channel. So, I want to give a couple disclaimers about this review. I know a lot of people, they get crazy into metallurgy and overall length and weight, and they get nutso, and they do a sharpness test and everything. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to give a very layman's term style review. I've had this knife for over a year now. I've used it quite a lot, carried it many days, and I've really gotten a hang of using it and carrying it, and that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to give my thoughts of actually owning the knife rather than going crazy into the specs. So with that being said, what are we looking at? So this is a cleaver style blade, has the traditional Spyderco hole in it, and it is a liner lock. So liner is in there, push that in. It's a little difficult until you get a hang of it because it's kind of hidden in there, but once you push that in, that closes the blade. And to open the blade, you have a variety of options, including using their thumb, which I'm not the greatest at. But the nice thing is sometimes if your thumb or whatever finger doesn't get it all the way out, you can use the nub back here to get it open. I know some people use a finger and flick it. That works too. My personal favorite way of opening it is just flicking it open like so. And that, for me, honestly, is the easiest way to open this blade. Once you get the hang of it, it actually is pretty easy because of the weight of the cleaver blade. You know, you get that good centrifugal force kind of swinging the blade open. The blade is made of VG10 steel and it's made in Japan. And as far as edge retention, I gotta say, it's been pretty decent. Now, I've used this for about a year now and it's in desperate need of a sharpening. But in that year, I've cut open and cut apart boxes, keyword cut open and cut apart. I've literally used this thing as a box cutter at times. Letters, different stuff, cut zip ties, cut thread, cut everything you can think of. Honestly, you know, it's done it all without issue, and I think it's, well, pretty much at this point, I think the sharpening it's going to get is well deserved. The cleaver style blade is handy for a lot of things. The only thing I did notice was a couple times, because of how this is pointed up here, it can be a little bit difficult when you're cutting like a zip tie. Say it's wrapped around a small post or something where you're trying to get it in between. That can be a little bit tough to get it in there, but once you get used to kind of like angling it in between stuff, it's not as hard. Just something that, you know, obviously comes with the territory of having a cleaver style blade. The handles on it are G10 and they only come in black. I wish you could get some different colors, but that's not really the knife's fault. That's just what they offer. No one really makes aftermarket scales for this, at least not that I have found, which is a shame because I've seen one or two crazy customs, but you know, that's like people doing full on custom work and obviously not really accessible for the general everyday public. It does have a lanyard hole on the back right here if you want to put a lanyard, and then the pocket clip is reversible. So that's nice because, you know, depending upon if you're left or right-handed, you can reverse that with ease. I do like this style pocket clip. I've not had any issue with it being too tight or too loose. So I've not had to tighten anything on the knife. That's one of the nice things about this is, you know, after a year of, again, cutting boxes down, doing different stuff, the knife has held up. The blade has a little tiny bit of wiggle. I suspect maybe if I torque this back down a little bit more, probably fine, but it has loosened up just a little tiny bit with use. I imagine that's something that would happen, you know, as you use it and, you know, it's getting open and closed, you're going to get a little bit of wiggle, but it's definitely not anything major and it has not affected the knife and it certainly doesn't feel like cheap or junky or something that's going to fall apart. So even with that little tiny bit of side to side wiggle, as far as once it's locked in, it's very firm, very tight. It doesn't, you know, wiggle back and forth at all. So overall, very happy with the knife. One thing I will say with the VG10 steel, and I did kind of a bead blast finish on this, I do kind of try and oil it every once in a while. You can probably see here it's a little bit gunky and whatnot, a little bit of discoloration. I do try and oil it every once in a while just because I have noticed small spots that, you know, not necessarily rust, but definitely discoloration that could lead to rust. So it's definitely a knife that if you're going to use it a lot, I'd say, you know, every once in a while, give it a wipe down with some oil, you'll be fine. As far as actually using the knife, it feels really nice in the hand. You've got some texture up here, which is nice, and you can really you can really, because it's a little bit bigger handle, and it really kind of reminds you, one of the things that kind of drew me to this knife was the fact that it kind of reminds you of an old school style straight razor, but you can really, even with my big hands, you can get good hand on the knife and then, do small detail work or whatever you're working on. Again, I use it a lot for cutting open boxes, and I like having, maybe I have my finger here to basically use it as like a safety cutter where I can cut open a box and keep only a minimal amount of the blade exposed. So, at least for what I do, I find it quite useful. It's pleasant in the hand, no major complaints. Again, like I said, if I had one complaint, it would just be this finish on this knife does kind of seem to hold a little bit of moisture, and it does need to be wiped down every once in a while. But other than that, it's a really nice knife, and I'm pretty happy with it. The price, it's definitely not a cheap knife, but I think you get a good quality knife for the money. So put down below, do you have any experience with the knife? Is it something you're considering? Let me know down below, and have a good day.